I'm going to tell it like it is regarding the Tennessee football program, because let's face it, nobody else is. Hi everybody, I'm Marky Bilson, and Rocky Top is the unofficial fight song of the Tennessee Volunteers. Maybe it ought to be Delta Dawn, because of course Delta Dawn, a song about a woman who delusionally thinks a former lover is going to come back to take her again. And so many Tennessee fans were delusionally thinking the glory days were back when the Vols kicked off against the Georgia Bulldogs last Saturday. But, they are not anywhere close to where they were in 1998, and I really don't think that it's going to happen again. I've said this many times. The dynamics of college football have really changed. I know Tennessee fans love to say, we're still drawing well, et cetera, et cetera. The money, and if you haven't noticed from COVID-19 yet, the money these days comes from TV. And you got to split it up 14 ways. So the advantages that Tennessee once had with taking in more revenue because of their attendance are less dramatic now. And I've said this for years and such, and but the problem is the media in Tennessee is still afraid to call it like it is. Frankly, let's just take a look at the sports radio scene in Knoxville. One program director of the leading sports radio station, he's also the public address announcer at Neyland Stadium. Another sports radio station says that they are affiliated with Fan-Sided. Hard to really get objectivity there. And a third fringe outlet just says that, out and out, we're a homer. Now where's the objectivity there? Where's the journalism? Where's somebody tell you what really is wrong and what really is going on with the Tennessee Volunteers? And it's so obvious. Now, here's the truth. Like I said, the Vols are destined to be a middle-of-the-road SEC East football program. Just like Missouri, just like South Carolina. Do not give me, but the Vols draw 100,000 fans, or whatever it is. That really is irrelevant in these days. I mean, the relevance is, you might be able to say that makes you a more attractive draw than, I don't know, Vanderbilt. But to, say, a South Carolina, which has an 80,000 seat stadium, nobody goes to a college because of nosebleed seats, folks. Nobody. And the results speak for themselves against the elite of the conference. Tennessee has now lost 9-11 to Georgia, 13 straight to Alabama, and 14 of 15 to the Florida Gators. It doesn't take that much reasoning as to why. When you look at the amount of football players that are in the NFL from Tennessee, there are fewer than 40 from the state of Tennessee. Tennessee is in the upper half of states that put football players in the NFL, but you got to figure they're always going to be ahead of Vermont and Wyoming and Alaska, let's face it. Overall, the last time I looked, and my stat is from 2019, I will give you that, but they were 17th overall. That's literally 5 times fewer than the amount of players that Florida puts into the NFL. And you can tell me all you want that the competition for the in-state athlete isn't going to be as fierce in Tennessee as it is in Florida. But still, there's enough room for players for Miami, for Florida State, and even Central Florida. And then, they can have depth there. Whereas, yes, there is always going to be the Tennessee football player who says, you know what, I want the education of Vanderbilt. You know what, I'm from White Station. I want to stay home and go to Memphis, or, I'm going to go to a school out of state, something like that. Now, let's talk a little bit about the 8-game winning streak that the Vols came in on before they played the Georgia Bulldogs. Let me say it properly here. Vanderbilt, UAB, 2 games against the South Carolina program going down the drain, 2 games against a Missouri program on a streak of losing 7 of 8. Oh, wait, they did beat LSU last week. They've now lost 7 of 9. A 1-point victory against that noted powerhouse, Indiana, thanks to a missed extra point. I mean, this is not an impressive streak, folks. This is all about the scheduling. Only beat Kentucky by a yard. Beat the Wildcats 33 out of 35 times. Why? Because Tennessee is supposedly a football school and Kentucky is a basketball school, and football is, an afterthought with the Wildcats. Let's face it. Now, against Georgia, we learned the Vols' pass defense is suspect. It seemed like their best defense against a 5'11 Georgia quarterback was a pass interference penalty. We learned that the conference's best offensive line has now allowed more sacks than any other team in the SEC except for South Carolina. And we also learned that Jared Guarantano is simply not going to get any better. Now, remember a couple of years ago when I famously told you that Logan Marchi, who was the quarterback at ETSU, was better than Jarrett Guarantano, and I took it on the chin when Tennessee won 59-3. But that didn't necessarily mean that a guy who had lit it up in the American for Temple wasn't better than a guy in the SEC known for consistently coming up 1 yard short. Look, Logan Marchi, if you want to know, he started at Temple, he transferred, started a few games at ETSU, then he transferred to Sacred Heart. So, okay, But all during his career, where he was basically a part-time starter due to injuries or whatever, he threw for 11 200-yard games. So in other words, he had 200 yards passing in 11 of the games he played in his college football career. And he was a part-time starter over, I think it was 2 seasons where you could possibly say he was a full-time starter. Well, Jared Guarantano is now in his 4th season of being a full-time starter. And hey, let's give him credit. Against Georgia, he threw for more than 200 yards for only the 10th time in his entire career. He's not going to get any better. He's prone to second-half mistakes, not second-half comebacks. And, this is who you have in 2020. And right now, it just does not appear that there is going to be a quarterback savior, either now or possibly in the future, for the Tennessee Volunteers. There's a reason why George Pickens sprayed water on him. It's because Guarantano is not a figure worthy of respect. As a human being, we're all worthy of respect. We don't deserve that. I'll give you that. But in terms of his play, well, there's a reason you don't squirt water on the Vanderbilt quarterback. It's not worth the 15 yards. There's a reason why you don't squirt water on the Alabama quarterback. They'll come back and kill you if you do. But against Jared Guarantano, hey, let's keep that bum in his place. 15 yards, at least maybe it'll keep the Volunteers fans who are somewhat mouthy and, keep the bums in their place. And that's the whole thing. I just don't think that, and it's a lot because of the media that they get, that the Tennessee fan is fully aware of where their program lies. It is not an elite program anymore. And so what does make it elite? Well, I'll tell you, I think that you're going to have to eventually pay the players because Tennessee still makes a heck of a lot of money, more money than most college football programs. And as a result, once you start paying the players, you'll have more money, theoretically, to pay them with. And just like a big market franchise in baseball, boom, that's the ticket out. The other ticket out would be to have a superstar coach. And folks, I'm not sure Jeremy Pruitt will ever be a superstar coach. Now, do we really have great faith in this guy? Take away his victories against FCS programs, and he's a 500 coach at Tennessee. Here's something else. He's not a good communicator. He's limited media access. He's asked the police what the big deal is when they're arresting one of his players. He has reinstated a player, Raynoch Thompson, just a month after Thompson threatened to shoot up the school. He grabbed Jared Guarantano's face mask after he went rogue against Alabama last year and received all the support in the world from the fan base, which had to make the fan base look barbaric. And frankly, Guarantano looked very humiliated, and it made Pruitt look extremely old-fashioned. And, there are places where he would have been fired for grabbing the face mask of Jared Guarantano. Terry Bradshaw used to always say one of the reasons he didn't go along with Chuck Noll back in the day was early in his career, Noll was upset with them, grabbed his face mask and confronted him and embarrassed him on national TV. And Bradshaw never really forgave Noll for that. You've got to wonder, it's one thing to say, what the hell are you doing there going your own way at the goal line against Alabama, Jarrett? It's another thing to physically grab onto the face mask, however briefly. The Vols were so predictable in their play calling, and Gary Danielson pointed this out in the second half, that the Georgia defensive line could just shift over. They knew it was coming. And that's one of the reasons why the Vols had only a yard rushing in the entire game. Now, part of that is also because of the archaic way that college football counts rushing attempts. A sack is a rushing attempt in college and high school football. It's an archaic way to keep stats. It shouldn't be the way it is. But there are 43 yards lost rushing on 10 attempts by Jared Guarantano. Even if we forget about the Guarantano rushing attempts / sacks, Vols only rushed for 44 yards. The other thing about Pruitt is he became a national figure of ridicule when he couldn't figure out how to wear a mask on the sideline, wrapping his checkerboard scarf around his head instead of putting it around his face. Twitter had a field day with Pruitt then, and it's really a bad look when you consider what's going on with the Tennessee Titans right now with the coronavirus. And, Kentucky's the next opponent. Hey, Jeremy, are the Vols gonna auction off those jerseys to Black Lives Matter or not? How's that gonna work out? Yeah. But the Vols fans and media are not going to criticize Jeremy Pruitt. As I said, when you're an admitted homer on the Fansided Network or the team's public address announcer, generally speaking, you worry about where your bread is buttered and making master happy rather than any journalistic objectivity. So Jeremy Pruitt's going to be the guy. Oh boy. Oh boy. And when you see that Jeremy Pruitt is going to be the guy, Dan Harrelson of Volswire writes things like, the Tennessee Volunteers have had a wonderful record when they allow fewer than 21 points and win the turnover margin. Show me the football team that doesn't have a good record when they allow fewer than 21 points or don't win the turnover battle. That's a non-story, and yet we're being peddled this propaganda, just like we're getting peddled Vols have good day in church by the media covering the Tennessee Volunteers. Quite frankly, it's disgraceful. Now, the reason why Tennessee fans are going to give Pruitt the benefit of the doubt is simple. He's not Greg Schiano. When Schiano was presented to the masses, it became anybody but Schiano. And Pruitt is anybody. But is he somebody? That's the question. And it's increasingly looking like he is not. Again, how do the Vols return to elite status? Well, it's going to be, under the current system of college football, they're going to have to hire a superstar coach, one with personality, pedigree, and intelligence. 3 things Pruitt really doesn't have. And also, I think that if and when players are paid, that'll work well for the Tennessee Volunteers. Until then, it's going to be more, hey, the Vols are 8-5. They're back! I'm Marky Bilson. If you want the truth about the Tennessee football program or sports in general, I ask you to follow me on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm now on Parler. And also, I do have a Facebook page, Tennessee Vols with only one N, Tennessee Vols Football, where you can get these videos as well. That's where I'm streaming this live right now. So until next time, so long, everybody.